Yesterday, Heidi and I were at our home church, First Baptist Church in Houston. And I had the blessing of sitting next to a gentleman, a Gold Star dad, who had been a pastor at the deaf ministry of the church for 30 years. And his son had been serving and had been working to disarm an IED in Afghanistan when the device exploded and took his life. And the pastor stood up at the service and he shared a little bit his memories of his son. But in particular, he shared how shortly before he was killed, he had a phone call with him. It was his last conversation with his son. And he said, he asked him, he said, "Son, how's your walk with God?" And he said the phone disconnected right after that, and so he didn't get to finish that conversation. A few days later, two men in uniform showed up at the front door to inform him of what had happened. Well, a couple of weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail. A letter his son had written after that phone call, but before he was killed. And the letter began with, "Dad, when we were talking on the phone, he asked me about how my walk with God was. And I wanted to tell you that in spite of everything we're seeing over here, in spite of all the challenges, my walk with God has never been closer." And that was a message almost from the grave that came to his mom and dad. So I want to say, especially the Gold Star families here, thank you. You pay the personal price, you pay the loss each and every day. And know that your nation remembers, and we're grateful. The legacy of our armed forces, at home and abroad, the heroes that we have seen, the battlefields of Europe, the Pacific, Korea and Vietnam, Afghanistan and Iraq. We have seen generation after generation of heroes stepping forward. Texas alone, more than 30,000 Texans have given their lives to defend this nation. That's the legacy of what it means to be a Texan. The next time you're explaining to someone what it means to be a Texan, and since we're Texans, we explain to everyone what it means to be a Texan. Remember that as part of what it means to be a Texan, that 30,000 of our brothers and sisters have given their lives defending freedom. You know, I'm reminded of back in 2013. There was an Air Force chaplain up in Alaska who wrote a blog post in which he used the phrase, "There are no atheists in foxholes." This chaplain was reprimanded by the Air Force for saying it. Was ordered to take it down. That was apparently insensitive to atheists, which I kind of thought was a chaplain's job. But I wanted to share with you a minute the origins of that phrase, because many people don't know where the phrase, "There are no atheists in foxholes," came from. The origins come from a speech in 1954 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, someone who had some passing familiarity with the military. And it was a speech to the American Legion in which President Eisenhower described what are known as the four immortal chaplains. Now, who are those chaplains? Those are four chaplains who were serving aboard the USS Dorchester in World War II. The Dorchester was coming around the tip of Greenland when it was hit by a torpedo from a German U-boat. And as the Dorchester began to sink, the chaplains, we had four chaplains that were serving on that ship, 2 who were Protestant, 1 who was Catholic, 1 who was Jewish. Each of those chaplains took his life vest off of his shoulders and put his life vest on the shoulders of another sailor. And the origin of that phrase is that they were doing that. None of the chaplains asked the man in front of them, "Are you a Protestant? Are you a Catholic? Are you a Jew?" They didn't ask anything like that. They just saw a fellow sailor, and they gave the last full measure of devotion and the ultimate sacrifice to save him. The survivors of the Dorchester remember those 4 chaplains standing together, singing hymns and praying as the Dorchester went under. Those are the 4 immortal chaplains. That's the history of heroism that we're honoring today. And that heroism has existed in the United States Armed Forces since the very first day we had United States Armed Forces. And all of us who value our fundamental liberties, who value religious liberty, who value free speech, who value the Second Amendment, who value all of the fundamental liberties that we are guaranteed as Americans, not a one of them exists without the service and sacrifice of the fighting men and women who defend us. Charles M. Province famously wrote, "It is the soldier, not the minister, who has given us freedom of religion. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to protest. It is the soldier, not the lawyer, especially not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the soldier, not the politician, especially not the politician, who has given us the right to vote. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves beneath the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, who allows the protester to burn the flag." That is the legacy of liberty this country was built on, and it was built upon the blood and sacrifices of the brave men and women who answered the call. And this day, and I hope every day, we as Texans and we Americans say thank you, we love you, and we are grateful for the country you have given us. Thank you. Yes.